Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today, we're talking about one of the most critical steps in launching a successful orthodontic practice, choosing the right market with Kent Miller from Dentagraphics. From understanding saturation ratios to predicting future growth, we're breaking down what really goes into a smart site selection. Whether you're planning a startup or looking to expand, this episode will help you see the power of market research in a whole new way. Let's get started. This episode was brought to you by ADEC. Are you thinking about opening an orthodontic practice? I know, it's a big decision, but saving 25% on the ADEC equipment you need to get started, that's an easy one. Because ADEC has a special program called Smart Start, designed to help you launch your first practice. You get up to 25% off your ADEC orthodontic equipment and furniture. You also get complimentary services to help you run and grow your business. And my favorite part, access to the Smart Start pricing for 2 whole years after you open your doors. That gives you flexibility to add more chairs as your cash flow grows. It's pretty smart. As an orthodontist, you care about getting all the little details right, and ADEC really got it right with this program. So if starting off with a big savings on ADEC equipment sounds good to you, the ADEC Smart Start is definitely worth a closer look. Just follow the link in the show notes to learn more. Kent, I am so excited to have you on Hey Docs again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me back. Always great to catch up.
Yes. So in the event that somebody maybe didn't catch one of our previous podcasts or does not know who you are, would you mind telling us just a little bit about your background, how you got into the world of demographics and market analysis?
Yeah, sure. I am the founder of Dentagraphics. We are best known as a market analysis or demographics company for the dental industry. We work nationwide. We work with all different specialties. So obviously orthodontists are a big part of who we serve. How I got into this is that I was working in urban planning. So that's my background. I have both an undergraduate and master's degree in urban planning. And I was working in like the quasi public sector, where we were contracted by cities, namely mostly Columbus, Ohio, to identify what types of businesses could open in areas that had lots of vacancies. So, of course, areas that had lots of vacancies were mostly like lower income types of communities. And the city didn't want to see that. The locals, the neighbors didn't want to see that. So we would look at the spaces themselves. We would talk to residents and say, hey, what's missing? What do you have to drive for? What do you want to see in your neighborhood? And of course, we'd look at any kind of economic data that we could get our hands on as well. And at the end of that process, we would say, okay, on this strip, we think that there could be a local pharmacy, maybe a grocery store, whatever that use was that residents had really been clamoring for. And we noticed, hey, there's not really one of those around here. So I did that for a little bit after I finished my master's degree. And then I was looking to do something a little bit different, had been in Columbus for 20 some years, which at that point was the vast majority of my life. And I had a friend actually working in the dental industry and thought, hey, these skills would translate really well. And he was actually on the finance side. So he was getting questions all the time from doctors at the early stage of their ownership journey. Where should I go? Is this area better than that area? Does the bank prefer one location to another? And I, as a part of that, built Dentagraphics. We started off as a just demographic report company. We do a whole lot more than that now. And here we are. It's now been 11 years.
It's so crazy. And for anybody listening, if you've talked to me, you've reached out about doing a startup or an acquisition or whatnot, you know that Kent is who I'm gonna send you over to, because you guys have done such a fantastic job, I think, coming in and really stepping into this space and providing just the tools that we need, especially when we're looking at doing startup orthodontic practices and those acquisitions. And I know a lot of people don't think about acquisitions when they think about demographics, but you and I both know that when somebody's coming in and getting ready to do that acquisition purchase, even having an understanding of what the area is doing and where it is going. If you think about you're coming in and going to buy a practice that you're going to be working at for maybe the next 15, 20 years, even though the price may look good on the price of the practice, you want to make sure that the data is there to support, or at least you know what you're getting into when you're getting ready to do that. And with that in mind, I would love it. I know you and we have both seen trends change to a point over the last 11 years since you've been doing this, and I've definitely seen a lot of things change over the last 19 years since I've had my business. And I'm wondering if you can talk just a little bit to us about what is some of the important planning pieces that you think orthodontic practices and doctors need to be paying attention to when they're looking at doing a startup or an acquisition?
Yeah. So I always tell doctors that we have three big concepts that we start with. And after that, things can be like details, but they're not usually make or break once we've addressed these first three concepts. So the number one, is there a market for care? Are there people living in that area who need and want orthodontic
Mhm.
services? If the
Mhm.
answer to that question is no, it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do. It doesn't matter how much your patients love you. It's going to be really tough, probably even impossible to be successful. So here we're looking at just plainly how many people live in that market. Typically for an orthodontist, we're going to narrow that population, or at least we're going to focus on the 6 to 17 age range. Of course, it depends on the doctor and how many adults they want to see in their practice as well. And then we're going to look at other factors like income and education to figure out, do people here, do they value their dental health? Are they going to be able to afford a treatment plan? And so that's really the number one thing. If you go to an area where there aren't patients, it's just going to be really tough for you. Number two comes down to me to sustainability. So are the people in that area a fit with your vision and your target patient base? And again, if you go to an area where there is a market for care, but there's not a fit with your vision, then maybe that works for you for a year or two and you're really financially successful. But you're probably going to burn out. And in 2 or 3 years, you're going to be calling us back saying, hey, I need out of this practice. Where do I go? What area is going to be a good fit for me? Except you lost a couple years and you spent a lot of money during
Yeah.
that time as well. Number three is where we start to think about saturation and competition. And one thing that I want to emphasize for people, especially my doctors who are in really competitive areas on the coast, in these big urban metro areas, is that saturation does not preclude you from being successful. There are practices that are really successful in New York, in California, in the Denver area, these super
Mhm.
competitive markets. What they're doing is they're out competing some of the other practices in those markets in order to make their numbers work. But just by being in a competitive market doesn't mean that you're bound to fail.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And I know when we're looking at numbers, and I know you do some analysis with the doctors, and I do also, it really is, you've got to take it doctor by doctor, location by location, and really look at what you're looking at there. And I completely agree with you when we're looking at that saturation number and what does that look like. Really, it comes down to how hard are you willing to work to get a bigger piece of the pie. If that pie is already divided out, and some people are willing to work really hard for that and others are not. And I think that especially as a doctor, if you're listening to this, is doing a startup or buying a practice, it's hard work. You're going to have to do the hard work. It's just for how long are you going to have to do that hard work to really get your feet under you and your business going? That's where some people can feel like, man, this is a lot harder than I wanted it to be. And sometimes choosing a different location, just that resistance path is a little bit easier sometimes.
Yeah. And what's right for one person isn't necessarily right for another person based off of your vision for the practice in terms
Right.
of who your patients are. But also, some people want more of a lifestyle practice. Hey, I want to be in 3 days a
Mhm.
week. I started a family. I want to spend time with my kids and I like going fishing and stuff. And look, if you can make those numbers work and that's what you picture for your life, then you should do that. If you're somebody who wants to have the multi doc group of practices scattered all across your region, I think obviously really make sure that's actually what you want to do, because it will be stressful, it'll be hard, it'll be a lot of work, and you'll be sacrificing time with family and friends and stuff like that in exchange. But think about what your vision is, and then we can start to design from there, whether it's me trying to help you find the right location or somebody like yourself who's going to see all the different facets of starting or buying that practice. So it really starts with kind of your vision for what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about what it looks like to think about those key factors when a doctor is considering looking or evaluating a potential location. And one of the things that I see is I think a lot of times doctors come at this two different ways. And I probably come at it. I have a preference one way maybe than somebody else. But now I tend to see if a doctor is working with a commercial broker, a lot of times if they're looking at doing demographics, they're going to be looking at it by location. So they may already have identified a building or a location, or the broker is coming at them saying, here's these locations. And a lot of times they're showing them their own demographics on what they see per that location. And the other option is to say, hey, I want to go into an area, but I want to have an understanding of, let's say, if I want to be in the Cleveland region, let's just say, I don't necessarily know what neighborhood yet or what area, but I want to have an understanding of, is there a better area to look than another? And I'm wondering if you can talk about that a little bit and what those differences are on spot specific or by region. And then I'll fill in my thoughts on why I like one way over another. But I do think sometimes it has to do with where a doctor is determining they're going to bring demographics into the mix when they're starting to look at locations.
Yeah. So my instinct, and obviously I work on the demographic and the market side, is to cast your net as wide as you would actually consider practicing in. Don't
Mhm.
pay me to study areas that you're not interested in, because if you live in Cleveland and I tell you here's a great location in Cincinnati, you might look at that and then be like, am I going to drive 4 hours to work every day? Probably
Yeah.
not. And obviously, we just got to draw that line somewhere. And it may not be distance. It might be like, hey, I don't want to practice in these particular neighborhoods. I've been there before, I've practiced there, I'm familiar with that part of town. It's just not the type of patient base that I'm looking for. So I think once we go through that exercise of eliminating areas and asking ourselves, how far do we want to drive to work every day for the next 10, 20 plus
Mhm.
years? This isn't an associateship where, okay, for 2 years, I can stick out that 45, 60-minute drive. It's going to be a little bit longer than that. So I think we go through that process, first of all, of eliminating where we know we don't want to be.
Yep.
And then we say, okay, here are all the areas that we would theoretically consider. Then let's compare those markets against each other, see which ones are
Yes.
most opportune, which are least opportune. And that way we can go into the real estate side educated. And maybe there's
Mhm.
a fantastic property in an average or even a below average market relative to what else is available to us in that region. If it's an awesome property, maybe it still makes sense. I always tell my clients, don't go to an A rated market, but then end up with an F rated property. That's
Right.
super expensive. There's no visibility. You're across the street from the landfill next to a vape shop. Like, just because there's no competition there and somehow it's like a high income area doesn't mean that's a good location for you. I would much rather you go to the B rated market to get an A rated property if that's a combination that's available to you as an alternative.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And I love what you're saying there. And I think you and I are in agreement. I really feel, and I try and encourage clients who are coming to me and asking about this, is that we do start with, and I love what you said, take the areas out that you don't want to go. It is just not worth the energy and the brain power to it's already hard to make a decision. And I think sometimes too much information is just too much information.
Absolutely.
So really identifying, and I love what you're saying about drive time or non-competes that you have to think about. All these things, don't look in an area that you're like, oh, but it's so great over there. Would you, like you said, would you really drive 5 hours to that? That shiny new penny is not a shiny new penny 3 years in and started your family and you want to be home and now you've got an hour and a half drive one way and an hour and a half drive the other just to be at a location that was great and you don't want to move your family in that
Right.
direction. I really love what you're saying. And I encourage doctors, if they can, to start exactly like you said, identify where you don't want to go, and then pull demographics and play the areas that you would want to work against each other, and then bring in the real estate component. Because what I feel that happens sometimes when docs get involved with commercial brokers and they're the ones just showing the demographics per property is I feel like sometimes it drives our docs into this tunnel vision of, it's almost like trying to show them the best that a property can be, but you don't really have the data around everything else that's around you. And there could be a better opportunity. There may not be a spot available yet, a retail spot yet, but sometimes it's just a waiting game, just waiting to know, hey, just two cities over, there's a fantastic, the demographics are amazing, but I'm not even getting to see that because I'm so focused in on just the demographics of a property. I'm wondering if you've got any thoughts on that and what you think on that perspective.
Yeah, I definitely recommend. Let's think about the world of possibilities. I was thinking about when you're talking about this. So I recently, my wife and I, we moved to Maryland from New York City. So we bought the house, we had a baby, we bought a car, we did all the things. And I'm thinking about like when we went and bought our car, we talked to three, four, five different dealerships that all sold the same makes. And had we just gone to the first dealership and they're like, here's a good car at a good price, and we only assessed versus their other cars, we wouldn't have ever known that, hey, maybe the second dealership or the third dealership had that same car at an even better price. And if we, I'm not saying you need to talk to every single dealership in the entire country or something, but talk to a few, see what
Yeah.
the opportunities are that are out there, and then start to narrow your search. I think with the data, with the real estate side, there's always some risk that's going to be involved. We can never fully model the real world. And the goal is to be educated on what the pros and cons are of each market and help line those up against each other so that we have a nice balance between the two and we're making an educated decision.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think I really like your analogy of the car dealership because that is it. Sometimes if you just get so focused in on just one thing, you don't get to really see what's out there. And I bring this up just because again, I know a lot of doctors come to me and they'll just be like, in one of those two camps, they've started and they're just wanting they've started with a broker and they're just so focused in on one area, one property, but not 100% in love with the property. You know what I mean? I think the data looks okay, Jill. What do you think? Type of a
Yeah.
thing. So I think I really like it when doctors can take that more, let's look at the big picture and start a little bit bigger and broader and then narrow it down and then send your brokers out to look in the areas that you've identified are good from a demographic standpoint, and then be willing to just wait and see what comes available versus just taking it from that one location. And to speak to that, then I think it's wonderful when you have identified that location to then go back in and do like more of that. Okay, what is my 5 mile radius from this exact address going to look like? What are my demographics? Who exactly is going to be my competition? How can I
Yeah.
position myself if I am going to go into this lease negotiation and this is going to be my space? How much do they market? Yes, there may be competition and the saturation. Now, let's talk about that. May look like, oh, I don't know, can I go in here? But you may get in there and look at, gosh, 4 of the 5 doctors that I'm going to be competing with are over 70, haven't had a new review on the Google business page since 2010. And,
Yeah.
then you look at that and you go, okay, could I get a bigger market share here? Yes, to your point, the demographics look tight, but who am I going up against? And I think those are all the factors that go into that. And maybe you can speak to that a little bit there.
Yeah. So I want to touch on first, just to cap the real estate side of things. I work with a lot of people on the real estate side. I went through your
Mhm.
episodes and I've listened to quite a few of them over the years. You've had real estate people on here, but I think look at incentive. A real estate agent isn't going to get paid, a broker isn't going to get paid until you sign on the dotted line. And you can't change that relationship. I am not trying to say that they're just out to get you or something like that. I actually think that 98, 99% of them are fantastic people and they're doing their job. But at the end of the day, it's a job and they need to get paid. So their natural incentive is for you to sign sooner rather than later. We don't have that same incentive, neither you or I do. We want to make sure that our clients are getting the best possible outcome, and that's our motivation. So I think it's just a little bit different. Again, I think lots of real estate people are fantastic, but it is a little bit different as to what their incentive is. In terms of digging more into the data, specifically on who the competing practices are, as an example, we call that character of competition. And there's so many ways to learn more about who a competing practice is. Because to your point, is it a 70-year-old doctor who's winding down, who's still open 1 or 2 days a week and they hang out with their grandkids the rest of the time? That's really different from a 35, 40-year-old doc who is ambitious and really getting after it 5 days a week, or a multi-doc location who has a great reputation in the community. And those are some of the sort of subtleties of how we read the data beyond the data. I think about this all the time, and I love using metaphors. You're going to hear another one. If you told me, hey, this basketball player averages 40 points a game, is that good? It sounds nice, but is that player the only one taking all of the team's shots and they miss 75% of them? Because if that's the case, then no, 40 points a game is not very good in the NBA. And so we just need to dig into the data a little bit more. And there's narrative to that. I wish that we could say that, oh, doc, there's 3,000 kids, 6 to 17 per competing practice. The median household income is $100,000 a year. You're going to collect $1.5 million your first year. I wish we could say that, but that's just not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And to exactly what you're just saying, you can have a doc that could be sitting in all of those really great things and not do a thing and not do well either. So it is that, like, you got to do the hard work if you're going to come in, no matter what, even the best location. If you don't do the work as a doc,
Absolutely,
into that practice, it's just data and you're not going to go anywhere with that practice. So let's dive in. I know you touched on some of those metrics, but let's talk a little bit more about some of those important metrics. And I can tell you, when I am looking at it, when I'm meeting with my docs and we're reviewing the data, the reports that we may have gotten from your team, and maybe after they've had a conversation with you, some of the areas that I really dial in and focus on, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but for me, what I've seen over the years in success of orthodontic practices specifically is I always dial into ownership of housing. How many people in the area actually own their homes? And I think that this is an important thing. And again, now this may be very different in a suburb versus very different in the heart of New York. So anything that we look at with data is also contingent upon where we're looking at. But I think that is a factor that I really look at a lot. I have found that, especially if we've got a practice that wants to have a little bit more of that bread and butter, that 6 to 16 crowd in their practice. Yes, they're going to treat adults. If we've got a median age of that 33 to 48 range, we've got households that are more owned than rented, that 75% or higher. Those are things that I look at to go, this could be beyond saturation and income. Those are also little factors that I think can really play into when you talk about what's your vision for your practice. That can really have a big impact on that as well. I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, those are the factors that I was saying earlier are not typically make or break. They can be in certain scenarios, but they're not typically make or break, but they help us fill in the gaps. And median age is a really good example. So let's say the median age in an area is 33 and the average household size is 3. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably never thought, what is the average household size in the country? Just so you know, it's about 2.5, more or less. And that is residents per household. So that would be like every other household would be, say, mom and dad and one kid. Obviously, we've got empty nesters. We've got people who live by themselves, people without kids, all that sort of stuff. But if the median age is 33 and the average household size is 3 residents, that's going to be an area with lots and lots of families.
Yep.
So it could be young families. That's probably what that type of area would look like, would be young families. And that's why that median age is 33, as opposed to nationally, it's about 38, 39. And the average household size is so big. Now, we could see, and sometimes this happens with our orthodontic clients, with our pediatric clients, if the median age is 33, that's amazing. That could be, but is it amazing because we have all these college kids and grad students over here? And
Exactly.
the median age of 33 is maybe not so good all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
So all these data points play off of each other and they complement each other and they help tell the entire narrative. I think one mistake that sometimes people make is that like they set one data point they're looking for or two or three data points that they're looking for and they want to say, okay, if I have A, B, and C, then this must be a good location. And again, there are some things that usually will mean that's a good location if we can cross those thresholds, but we still need to look at the details and make sure that there isn't a false positive there.
Yeah. And now, a word from the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Hey, docs. If you want to have a great business, the right practice management software is essential. But some can be slow, outdated, and lacking good support. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to all orthodontists. It's the fastest, most reliable, and most secure platform to grow your business and improve your efficiency. It's completely web-based, so you can run your entire practice anywhere and from any device with no servers, no downloads, or hidden fees. They even have the most helpful and responsive support team around. Right now, Greyfinch is giving a $500 discount to our listeners. Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen to learn more and see why it's one of the fastest growing providers in America. Hey docs, let's talk about Smile Suite because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at GetSmileSuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite because every smile deserves a suite of excellence. And that reminds me of a couple scenarios that I have definitely seen docs get into too when we're looking at growth in areas. And sometimes you could look at that and say, oh my gosh, if you were setting your sights on, I only want to look at areas where there's growth. I'm only going to pick an area many times. And again, curious to hear what you think. But what I tend to see is a lot of times things are spec'd for growth and there is residential growth before there's commercial growth. You may be looking at this data and going, "Oh my gosh, this is a gold mine. I'm going to kill it here." But if you're one of the first people in and the infrastructure isn't there yet, it can be really difficult. Or you may see this coming, but there is no retail is there yet. And
Yeah.
I've seen some doctors get into some situations where maybe they were the very first into the very first retail spot, lots of growth, lots of housing, but it's almost like they're too early in, or the population is too young. It's too young of the families are still so young with that median age being lower and the families are coming and it's all there, but they're a brand new orthodontic practice going in where the kids are more in that 6-year-old
Yeah.
range and not the 12-year-old range. And they're going to have a booming practice in 5 years. But what are they going to do until they get to that
Yeah.
5-year mark? Or the referrals that they would hope for from the dentists aren't there because there's no infrastructure there yet or whatnot. I'm curious if you can speak to that at all and what you've seen or how you might talk to doctors about. Again, it's not a black and white on a piece of paper, but it's learning to read that
Yeah.
data around what that is.
Yeah. First of all, have you done this job before? Have you done my job? Because that's amazing. And you're spot on. There's a lot to unpack there, but you're spot on about everything there. So, yes, growth is great. You'll notice I didn't mention that earlier when we were talking about the three biggest things that we look for. California is not growing. Illinois, Chicago, not growing. Does that mean that there are no successful orthodontists in California? I don't think so. Growth also is inherently talking about the future. And if we're trying to really predict the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, nobody can really do that. We like to look at recent trends. So where have things been heading? That's likely to tell us what things are going to look like in the next couple of years. But one, I don't want you gambling on what 2035 looks like. Two, you got to pay your bills between now and 2035. And three, things really can and do change. I used to live right next to where Amazon was going to build quarters in New York. And I've got probably 2 or 3 calls a month from people saying, hey, Amazon's building their new headquarters in New York City. It's going to be amazing. I want to put my practice right there. And after a few months, Amazon said, actually, we're not going to do that. And this was this big official announcement. It was national news. Fortunately, I don't think that any of my clients had enough time to go in and sign a lease and all of that. But things can do change. So don't bank entirely on growth. If there's new growth in the future, that's awesome. That's a bonus. But I want your practice to be sustainable and successful the day that it opens, not have you twiddling your thumbs waiting for those houses over there to get built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said that, because again, I think it can be easy to get into that. My real estate agent says this area is growing or this area is that. And I'm truly not trying to throw our brokers under the bus, because I love them. And
Me either.
That is not what this episode is about. But I feel like there is just a lot of noise out there, especially that our younger docs, whether it's in their crowdsourcing through their Facebook groups or wherever they're at, or they're talking to other professionals. And again, I think sometimes when you're looking at data, and that's why when I'm working with startup clients, I really, if at all possible, I want us to always start with the data first, knowing that the data can't tell us, like you said, it doesn't have a crystal ball. It can show us things, but we have to be careful also to just not get so wrapped up in just one piece of data and think, if there's growth, therefore this means I'm going to be successful. And I love your point that you talked about areas that aren't growing, because to be really honest, there's lots of areas and lots of states that are very landlocked. There just is not going to be a lot of growth happening. And there may be turnover within the communities. And you want to hope that you're part of that, where you may be looking at a community that, if we were to have pulled demographics, 10 years ago, maybe it was an aging out community. And now we're seeing data that shows that there's this influx of new people coming in, and that area is having a life boom again. But I think that we just have to really look at everything and just be really careful to set our sights on just this point and this point. So therefore I will be successful, or therefore I will not be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some fun ones out there, not to get too into the nitty gritty, but like when we see new construction, we think growth, like that's good. But what if it's new construction where like maybe a family of 5 or a family of 6 was living in like an older sort of beat up, rundown community, and now that area is gentrifying, but who moved in, maybe empty nesters who bought a new $2 million condo or something like that. If we went from 5 people or 6 people to 2, that's a decrease in the population. Yeah. Not to mention, as an orthodontist, that empty nester population might not be our sweet spot. So new construction doesn't necessarily equal growth. And that's one thing that even I see all the time. Hey, shiny new this, shiny new that over there. But is that good for you and your practice? It very well could be, but it's not guaranteed. It may not be.
Yeah. And I think that just takes us back to, what is the vision of your practice? If your goal is to have an adult-centered focused practice, you're going to be looking at very different demographics. And that could be something where you're like, this is great in comparison to, I want that more bread and butter 6 to 6 group. And I think that's the same thing when we're looking in cities too. And I see that a lot, where docs will have in their mind that they want a very family centered practice, but yet they want to work in the heart of Chicago. And like that's a tough one. It's not that we don't have families, but we may even have a difference in population from who's there in the day to who's there in the evening.
Absolutely.
And New York is a perfect example of that as well. And I think just you can probably speak to a little bit of this, really having that understanding of what type of practice do I want? And then what does this data say? Is it going to support? There will never be a black and white answer with any
Yeah.
of this, but does it support, or have I really thought through all of the pieces to make sure that the area I am going to go into is going to support the vision that I have for my long-term practice goals?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a millennial. A lot of us love being in the big city, close to
Mhm.
downtown, the walkable neighborhoods with the bars and the restaurants and all that. But the reality is that in a lot of areas, we see that when people start to think about having kids, and
Mhm.
especially maybe a second child, and the kids start getting older and they want to run around, and okay, now we're thinking about schools, those families a lot of times are still leaving the cities and
Yep.
looking for more of a suburban setting. So if your bread and butter is that sort of 6 to 16, 17 age range, that's probably not going to be a great market for you. We might see that, hey, kids are really heavily skewed toward like the 0 to 5 age range. Sometimes we see that if we look at just the 0 to 17, it's, oh, that's not too bad. And hey, there's all these people with strollers in a couple years. Those kids aren't going to be in strollers anymore and they're going to be my patients. They will be, but they're going to live 45 minutes away
Right.
outside the city. So that's one thing to think about with those types of environments. And I love cities. As I said, I just moved here from New York City. I've
Mhm.
lived in a handful of cities. The other one that you touched on there is who's in that area. So I mentioned that strip with like bars and restaurants. And sometimes I talk to people who sound like myself. It sounds like I'm talking to me. And they're like, yeah, I want to open my ortho practice in this really cool neighborhood. I want to be like the cool orthodontist. And there's all these people who walk by here, but are these people looking for orthodontic care in that area, or are they looking for a local craft IPA? And if they're looking for the local craft IPA, it doesn't matter that their eyes saw your orthodontic practice. Same thing in maybe more of a classic setting too. Hey, there's this big roadway, all these cars drive by. But if it's this big roadway that comes off of the highway and it's somebody who's driving from Ohio to Missouri and they stopped in Illinois to get a cup of coffee, they're probably not looking for orthodontic services on
Right.
their little
Yes.
pit stop there.
Yep.
And those eyeballs are there, but they're not valuable to you, but they are valuable to Starbucks and McDonald's. And so they're willing to drive up the rent price to pay for that, but you shouldn't be. And that is one way I like to differentiate visibility from accessibility sometimes as well. That visibility is, can I see you from the street? It's not necessarily how many cars are on the street, because we have to think about, are you set back? What's your signage look
Mhm.
like? That type of stuff. But are the right people coming by? Somebody who's just passing through town on a 12-hour road trip is probably not looking for an orthodontic practice.
Yeah, such good insight there for sure. So, as we start to wrap this up, and I know that you and I could just talk, and why I'll have you on again, let's talk a little bit about what you guys do specifically at Dentagraphics. And one of my favorite new tools that you have is you have the traditional, let's pull a really deep, in depth report about a specific area. Or you're also now introducing something which I've been really loving, which is your demographics on demand. I'm wondering if you can just talk about the products and what may make sense for one person versus another. Do you mind diving into that a
Yeah,
little bit? Because I just think
yeah,
you are the only company out there that I know that is doing an on demand component, that which I just think is great and worth highlighting.
yeah. Thank you. So yes, we do have the custom reports. You might have heard a demographic report. We call it a custom report sometimes to help differentiate the difference between that and the software. I would say the custom report of the demographic report is good if you want a little bit more insight from our team and you want to have us customize everything for you and say, okay, a median household income of $90,000 a year in Raleigh, North Carolina. Is that good for you in your practice? Is that not so good for you in your practice? That is a PDF document produced just for you and your specific scenario. The other option is our on demand product that you mentioned, which we think of as more of our software and our kind of DIY option. it still comes with help from our team. So we'll talk to you throughout the process. There's an official onboarding call. We'll make sure you know how to read the data, you know how to use the software, obviously. But it is ultimately a little bit more DIY. It gives you access to our data in a user-friendly platform. So you can see, okay, instantly, what does 123 Main Street look like? Okay, now what does 234 High Street look like? You can see the competing practices. You can see pediatric practices, GP offices. You can see schools, what age levels they serve, how many kids go there, the percentage of them who are on a free or reduced price lunch plan. So you get some demographics about that student body. It's really powerful. It's just a little bit different from the reports that are less DIY and come with kind of that consultative approach from our team.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful that you developed out this software. And I know I refer a lot of clients to that software because I just feel like it has been so helpful with where we're going, and especially for a lot of docs who just don't know yet exactly, like, we're kicking the tires, we're thinking we're moving in this direction, but we aren't committed yet. I feel like just having this higher level where you can get in, like I said, even maybe before you're working with a broker, to be like, okay, I, for myself, just want to sit under this data and look. And, oh, my husband and I were out driving and we went down in this neighborhood and we loved it. Ooh, maybe that would be good. Just being able to plug and play with that data, but yet not necessarily needing that really in-depth report yet. I'm just, again, so excited that you guys have done this, and you're the only company out there that I know that is doing this and really doing it well in our demographic space for orthodontic practices and pedo. And I know you guys work in the whole dental realm, but it has been a game changer for me, and I think for a lot of my clients.
Yeah. I mean, we certainly, from the client perspective, there are cost efficiencies there, because if we run a report and it's custom, right? Like, we pay our team members to go and do something custom for you. And for whatever reason, that area, that location doesn't work out. Now we're all back to square one. And we've had a couple of clients over the years where that happened to, hey, I thought I wanted to live in Houston. Now I want to live in Tampa. Or, you know, this property didn't work out. The landlord was being really difficult. I need to get another location. Or just, I have 5 practices. I've run 20 reports with you guys over the years. Can I just see the data? I understand how to read it. I've got somebody like Jill on my team who can help me read this data. So it's definitely more cost efficient to go the software route. And it's something that we understand is obviously a huge commitment for our doctors. And we're passionate about a couple of things at Dentagraphics. We love data. We love software and the modernization of where things are going. And we love entrepreneurship. We're a small business. We work with tons and tons of small businesses. We get it. It's scary, especially when you have a good 6-figure job where, you know, most of the time you're working 9 to 5, to say, hey, you know what? I don't have enough debt in my life. Let me go get rid of this job and take on some more debt. Right. It's a lot. So we want to make sure you feel good about it. You've made an educated decision and you're giving yourself the best chance for success.
I love that. All right. If somebody wants to find out more about you, about Demographics on Demand, or running a report itself, or they just want to pick your brain a little bit about what they're thinking, what's going to be the best way that they can reach out, get a hold of you, get a hold of the team?
Yeah. So dentagraphics.com, www.dentagraphics, which is dental without the L, and then graphics, graphics.com, is our website. You can reach me directly, Kent@dentagraphics.com. And then our phone number on our website, 888-715-1044. It will connect you with somebody on our team as well.
That's awesome. This has been just a joy. I am a data geek too. And so anytime I get an opportunity to talk about this and what I really believe is the foundation to really good orthodontic practices, I think it's always a fun discussion. So thanks for being here on Hey Docs and for taking us through all this. Sometimes I say the unsexy side of the business, but it's what we need. We need the data to be able to build our foundation for those strong practices.
Thank you so much for having me. Measure twice, cut once. That's our motto here.
I love it. I love it. You know how I like to finish us off? I like to finish us off with a little speed round. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Are you ready for the speed round challenge?
Let's do it.
All right. What is one daily habit or ritual that helps you stay productive or balanced?
I wake up in the morning and do something that I want to do. So it's not like my alarm goes off and I'm like, oh, I need to reply to this client. I need to do that. I need to run into the office or something like that. I wake up, I drink my coffee. I have a couple newsletters I subscribe to. I read the news and my newsletters. Now I feed my son too. So one hand reading, one hand holding a bottle. But I wake up and I do something I want to do for me. And then I start my day.
I love that. All right, here's another one. If you could add one unconventional perk to everybody's workplace, what would it be?
So, Joey, you're going to get me in trouble with this one because Dentagraphics doesn't offer this, but maybe we should. I actually really think that different media subscriptions and access would be a really cool benefit. It creates an informed team. Hey, if we're all reading different platforms, we can talk about it. Whether it's directly related to our business or not, it keeps us aware of what's going on in the world and just culturally relevant as well. I even thought about, should we all be watching HBO? It creates culture. I think that would be a really cool benefit and one that most companies can afford too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And again, it just gives you something to talk about and stay relevant as you guys are having those conversations. I love that. All right, and the last one, what is one business idea that you've seen recently that you wish you had thought of?
Yeah, so I really like, as I mentioned, I came from urban planning. I love cities. I love all that stuff. I've seen a few of these recently. Coffee shop brewery combination. So in the morning, it's a coffee shop. And Jill being in Colorado, you're probably like, yeah, I know this is old news. But in the morning, it's a coffee shop. In the afternoon, there's a little switchover. There's a couple hours of overlap,
Yep.
turns into a brewery. Great place to get some work done when you need to be creative. Start with the cold brew, finish up with a beer. Sometimes they're open all day together. Sometimes it's just a little bit of overlap, but a great place to hang out and a great utilization of space. That coffee shop would close at 4 o'clock or whatever. The brewery wouldn't open till 3, 4, 5 o'clock.
Yep.
So a great way to share that space and share those overhead expenses.
Yeah, I love that. And yes, we're pretty lucky here in Colorado. We got a lot of that. We have no shortage of both. Thank you again for being on Hey Docs. It's always a pleasure. And I love picking your brain and just hearing where things are at. So until next time, thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe.